science tell us about climate change anymore. We see it, we feel it, we live it. I grew up in the south of Morocco where I seldom saw rain. Water was scarce, food insecurity was harsher, especially on underprivileged communities. Yet, every time people said it was temporary, every time people said it would pass, except that it didn't, and it still has not. Around the same year I started noticing these signs, in 2016, my country hosted COP22, right after the historic Paris Agreement in COP21 in Paris, in France. I remember thinking, I was 13 at the time, and I remember thinking, what could be so difficult to negotiate that needed 22 conferences, now 30, and still remains unsolved? A decade has passed since then. A decade of waiting, a decade of speeches, a decade of delays. Every year, we are told that transitioning is expensive. But what about the cost of not transitioning? Because right now, more money is spent on fossil fuel subsidies than on clean energy investments. And while that happens, 600 million people in my home continent in Africa still don't have access to electricity in the first place. And in the global north, households are struggling with soaring energy prices. Entire communities are having to struggle with wildfires, floods, storms, extreme weather events at record-breaking levels in both the developing and the developed worlds. And you know who else is breaking records? The fossil fuel industry. Because in 2023 alone, fossil fuel companies made over $2.4 trillion in profits. $2.4 trillion. That's $6.5 billion per day. 9 million in the past 2 minutes I've been speaking. And how much of that is reinvested into the energy future that we're all here in this room aiming for? Less than 4%. And here's the thing, it's only going to get more expensive. Every delay looks us deeper into dependence on outdated energy systems. Every year of hesitation means more lives lost, more communities displaced, and more irreversible damage to our ecosystems. One day, we will wake up to find that the cost is no longer measured in dollars, it is measured in human lives. That's why we need energy transition now. And it must be equitable, it must be just, it must be for everyone. After nearly a decade as a youth climate activist, I can tell you, we young people are exhausted. We're exhausted by the excuses. We're exhausted by the delays. We're exhausted by the speeches. We're tired of not knowing whether our actions will ever lead to something. We're tired of constantly wondering whether we're acting at the pace required. We're tired of dedicating our entire lives, our entire futures to climate action, only to ask, will it ever be enough? And this isn't just about us young people. Everyone is, or soon will be a victim of climate change. I don't want to say the world has failed my generation or the future generations, because that's not entirely true, at least not yet. We still have a choice. We have the resources, we have the technology, we have the solutions. What we don't have yet is the political will. And the good news is that's the easiest part, because we can phase out fossil fuels. We can scale up clean energy faster. We can create financial flows that ensure the global South transition without debt, without delay. And we can ensure this transition does not leave anyone behind. Yes, we are exhausted, but no, we are not powerless. And as young people, we refuse to believe that this is the best that can be done. I am supposed to talk about the future in my speech, but will we have a future at all? The future is not something we inherit. It is something we shape through every decision, every choice, every moment of action or inaction. And the future is still unwritten. We can still choose hope over fear, courage over hesitation, justice over delay. Let it be said that we were the generation that did not wait for the future to be given to us. We built it ourselves. Thank you.